As I thought about sharing this with you this morning, I first went to the blueletterbible.com, a resource that Pastor Johnson has encouraged us to use from time to time to do deeper dives. Because I was curious, what did the word sick really mean in the original Greek? What I learned was this: to be weak, feeble, to be without strength, powerless. 2, to be weak in means, needy, poor. And 3, what it means to be weak, to be feeble. Initially, I couldn't recall a time when I had been weak or feeble, where I had been in the hospital and in need of someone to come and visit me. But you know, we live in this time where they do outpatient surgeries that are just quite impressive, quite involved. And it was upon further reflection that I recalled about 6 years ago. I had been out of town and I came home, and our newest grandson, Elijah, had been born. We went over to see Elijah, and we did our oohing and ahhing over the new baby. And then I took his older brother Tyrell outside, and we started playing basketball. And it may have gotten a little bit competitive. I may have been playing 40 years younger than I thought I was. And it didn't help I was wearing Crocs. There was a great fall, and I completely tore my right rotator cuff. I went through a lot of therapy, and I couldn't lift more than a pound above my head. But anyways, long story short, it was 10 months later in January that I was in for this total rebuild of my right shoulder. And Barb drove me down to Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute there, near Baptist Hospital. We arrived right around 6 a.m. It was cold and dark. As we pulled in the lot, there was one car in the parking lot. Pastor Johnson waiting for us. Barb said, you know, it's going to be okay. I got prepared for the surgery, and Pastor Johnson came in, and there were prayers for the surgeon, a successful surgery, a quick recovery. I was sick, and you visited me. It was in the form of Pastor Johnson. Over the last 9 years, Barb and I have been the caregivers for Peg, my brother-in-law, my mother-in-law, and Chuck, her disabled brother. And during that same period of time, there were numerous hospitalizations with them, numerous times where they were in outpatient procedures, such as cardioversions, cardiac catheterizations, etc. And each time, as we told the church staff and pastors of the upcoming procedure or hospital visit, they came and prayed and visited. And to see if anything was needed. Because that's the other part of the word visit. It's not just to come, but to see if something else is needed. Perhaps some of you have been in that place where you may have been in the ER, hospitalized, or lengthy stay at home due to an illness or an injury. And I am sure that once the church staff was aware of your situation, they were there. It's one of the things that we do well at this congregation. They came and paid a visit. They helped to assess your situation, and they checked to see if you needed anything. Today's phrase is also very meaningful for me, especially in light of what's happened in our lives, Barb and my family's lives, over the past 2 years. It was in the late summer of 2014, August. Baby Eli was now a preschooler, coming to preschool with Grandma. He had just begun the Shepherd of the Woods preschool program, and it was at that time we learned Eli had a rare immune deficiency, an autoimmune disorder. What followed was Eli's lengthy journey through a traumatic illness, the hope of life through a bone marrow transplant that was done in April 2014, and it ended with Eli's death on July 19th. Because of the complications from that bone marrow transplant. Over that 10-month period, Eli, his mom and dad, Jerry and Lisa, Barb and I and our families, we were without strength. We were powerless. And this congregation visited us. Through our pastors and staff members who came to see Eli multiple times at Wilson Children's Hospital. This is Eli's prayer quilt. This is how you visited us. Did you tie a knot and said a prayer for Eli and for his family? Some of you gave blood in those blood drives that were done for Eli at that time. This congregation was well represented at Eli's memorial service that took place in late July. And we felt your care. You're visiting us through the emails, the notes, the sympathy cards, the hugs. Thank you. Within a year of Eli's death, we were also faced with the sudden death of two very close family members. Peg, my mother-in-law, and Chuck, my brother-in-law. Peg died 2 days before Christmas in 2015. With all of our family members in town to celebrate Christmas, the day after Christmas we held her funeral service. And this congregation came out. We were powerless. We were without strength. You came and supported us. You lifted us up. You showed respect. We received hugs, words of encouragement. My brother-in-law Chuck died in June of 2016. He had a double traumatic bleed to the brain and never regained consciousness. Barb and her siblings, in consultation with the palliative care team at Memorial Hospital, agreed to honor Chuck's living will. And all artificial means of life support were removed early in the morning of June 17th. Pastor Peacock was there. He prayed with us, remembering from dust you have come, and to dust you shall return. It was quite an emotional moment. And then Pastor Peacock invited us to join him in song. Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. Comical moment, everyone whipped out their smartphones and quickly looked up on the internet the lyrics so we could continue singing. And we continued on. And as we got to the last verse, almost like the Holy Spirit moved. We sang it in honor of Chuck. Hold thou thy cross before his closing eyes. Shine through the gloom and point him to the skies. Heaven's morning breaks and earth's faint shadows flee. In life, in death, O Lord, abide with Chuck. Later that day, Chuck passed from this life to life eternal. And yes, we're still grieving it and working through it. Once again, this congregation came out and hugged